You think you understand why she left you for someone else. But what if everything you believe about love, attraction, and female nature is just a beautiful lie, designed to keep you trapped in endless cycles of romantic suffering? Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher who influenced everyone from Nietzsche to Freud, discovered something about human relationships that most men spend their entire lives refusing to see. His insights about the will to live, the illusion of romantic choice, and the biological forces that drive attraction will fundamentally change how you understand every interaction you've ever had with women. This isn't just philosophy. It's the operating manual for human nature that nobody wants you to read. You think she fell for your charm, your wit, your personality. You believe that connection you felt was real. That spark between you two was unique and special. But Schopenhauer would tell you something that cuts deeper than any rejection. None of it was ever about you as an individual. What you experienced was the blind, relentless will to live, using both of you as puppets in its cosmic game of reproduction. This force doesn't care about your dreams, your fears, or what makes you uniquely you. The will operates beneath consciousness, like a master puppeteer pulling strings you can't even see. When she looked into your eyes and felt that electric attraction, it wasn't your soul she was connecting with. Her unconscious mind was rapidly calculating genetic compatibility, assessing your potential as a provider, evaluating whether your combination with her would produce strong offspring. You felt the same biological imperative disguised as romantic love. This isn't cynicism. It's the brutal metaphysical reality that governs every romantic encounter. Understanding this doesn't make you powerless, it makes you aware. Most men live their entire lives believing the fantasy that love is about personal connection and shared values. They suffer endlessly because they can't understand why relationships feel so transactional, why women seem to calculate rather than simply love. Once you grasp that the will to live is the true author of attraction, you stop taking romantic outcomes personally. You realize that when she leaves for someone better, it's not a judgment on your worth as a human being. It's simply the will moving her toward what it perceives as superior genetic material. Sexual attraction feels like magic, like destiny calling your name across a crowded room. She walks in and something primal awakens inside you, convincing you that this woman is special, that fate brought you together. Schopenhauer called this nature's most elaborate lie. What you experience as romantic love is actually the species manipulating your consciousness to ensure its survival. The intensity of attraction you feel corresponds directly to how suitable she would be for producing your offspring. Think about it. Why do certain women drive you absolutely wild while others leave you completely cold? It's not random, and it's not about personality compatibility. Your unconscious mind performs rapid genetic calculations, evaluating hip-to-waist ratios, facial symmetry, signs of fertility and health. The more your biology screams that her genes would complement yours, the more romantic and poetic your conscious mind becomes. You start writing love letters to what is essentially a sophisticated biological assessment. This deception runs so deep that even knowing about it doesn't make you immune. You can understand intellectually that your obsession with her stems from reproductive drives, yet still feel that overwhelming pull. The species has had millions of years to perfect this illusion, while your rational mind has only existed for a few thousand. She becomes beautiful not because beauty is objective, but because your DNA recognizes hers as a perfect complement. Nature doesn't care about your happiness, only about creating the next generation. You pride yourself on being a man who makes his own decisions, who chooses his path in life. But when it comes to the women you're drawn to, Schopenhauer reveals an uncomfortable truth. You never really chose her at all. Your unconscious biological programming made that choice millions of years before you were born. What you experience as personal preference and individual taste is actually the will manipulating your consciousness to serve its reproductive agenda. The woman who captures your heart does so because she represents the genetic combination that would best serve the species. Every quality you think you personally value in women serves a deeper biological purpose. You believe you prefer intelligent women because you appreciate stimulating conversation. But intelligence signals genetic fitness and the ability to raise successful offspring. You think you're attracted to her confidence because you admire strong personalities. But confidence indicates genetic superiority and the capacity to compete. For resources, even your taste for physical beauty follows precise mathematical ratios that signal fertility. And healthier conscious mind creates elaborate stories about compatibility and connection. While your DNA pulls the strings, this illusion of choice keeps you trapped in cycles of romantic suffering. You blame yourself when relationships fail, thinking you made poor decisions or didn't try hard enough, but you were never in control of the selection process in the first place. The will chose her through you, and when she no longer serves its purposes, it will move you toward someone new. Understanding this doesn't make you powerless. It frees you from the burden of believing your romantic life reflects your conscious choices. She seemed completely devoted to you, texting constantly, planning your future together, talking about forever. Then suddenly her behavior shifts and you can't understand why. Schopenhauer understood something about human nature that most men refuse to accept, though will never stop seeking better options. What you call female hypergamy is simply the biological imperative, expressing itself through her consciousness. Her attraction to you is never permanent because the will itself is never satisfied, always pushing toward what it perceives as superior. Genetic material or better resources for potential offspring. This isn't a character flaw in women. It's the same force that drives you to notice other attractive women even when you're in love. The will operates through both sexes, but manifests differently based on evolutionary roles. While you might be drawn to multiple women simultaneously, her biology pushes her toward constantly evaluating and upgrading her primary choice. She doesn't consciously think about trading up, but something deeper compels her to remain open to better opportunities. The moment someone appears who offers superior genes, resources, or status, the will begins its work of shifting her attraction. Understanding this pattern protects you from the devastating shock of female nature. Most men experience this as betrayal, as evidence that women are inherently disloyal or manipulative. But she's no more in control of this process than you are of your initial attraction to her. The will uses both of you as instruments in its endless quest for genetic optimization. Her love was real within the context of what the will needed from you at that moment. But the will's needs are never permanent. You want to believe that she loves you for who you are, that your unique personality and individual qualities make you irreplaceable in her heart. Schopenhauer shatters this comforting illusion with surgical precision. You are not loved as an individual, but as a means to satisfy the will's reproductive agenda. She doesn't see the real you. She sees a collection of genetic traits, resources, and social status that serve her biological imperatives. This isn't cruelty. It's the fundamental nature of sexual love according to Schopenhauer's metaphysics. Every gesture of affection, every whispered endearment, every moment of apparent intimacy serves a deeper biological calculation. When she tells you she loves your sense of humor, she's actually responding to intelligence markers that suggest good genes for offspring. When she praises your ambition, she's evaluating your capacity to provide resources and protection. You objectify her body, she objectifies your utility. Neither of you can help this, because consciousness itself is a tool the will uses to manipulate you both into reproduction. This mutual objectification explains why relationships feel simultaneously intimate and hollow. You can spend years with someone, share your deepest thoughts, create countless memories together, yet still feel fundamentally unknown and replaceable. That's because the will only cares about the functions you serve, not your inner life or individual essence. She can replace you with another man who offers superior genetics or resources, just as you can be drawn to another woman who triggers stronger biological responses. The person beneath these biological roles remains invisible. To romantic love, you entered the relationship expecting happiness, fulfillment, a refuge from life's struggles. Instead, you discovered that love brings its own unique forms of torment, jealousy, insecurity, the constant fear of loss, the pain of unmet expectations. Schopenhauer would tell you this suffering isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Romantic relationships are fundamentally designed to create suffering because the will uses pain as its primary motivational tool. Your anguish over her potential infidelity, your anxiety about losing her to someone better, your frustration with her changing moods, all serve to keep you psychologically invested in the reproductive game. The very structure of romantic love guarantees suffering through its inherent contradictions. You want to possess her completely while simultaneously desiring her to choose you freely. You crave security in the relationship while being attracted to the very unpredictability that makes love exciting. You want her to remain the same person you fell for while knowing that all living things must change and evolve. These impossible demands create a psychological prison where satisfaction becomes literally impossible, where every moment of happiness contains the seeds of future pain. Most men blame their relationship problems on poor communication, incompatibility, or bad timing. They believe the next woman will finally bring them peace and contentment. Schopenhauer reveals this as another illusion. The suffering comes from the nature of romantic love itself, not from choosing the wrong person. Every relationship will eventually become a source of pain because the will designed it that way. Understanding this doesn't eliminate suffering, but helps you stop expecting romantic love to deliver what it can never provide. You remember the intoxicating agony of wanting her before you had her, how every text message sent your heart racing, how every glance felt electric with possibility. Then you won her over and experienced a few months of bliss before something unexpected happened. The magic began to fade. What once thrilled you now feels routine. What once seemed mysterious now appears predictable. Schopenhauer identified this pattern as the fundamental rhythm of human existence. We swing endlessly between the pain of wanting and the emptiness of having. In relationships, this pendulum becomes a torture device that destroys most romantic connections. The chase phase serves the will's purposes perfectly by keeping you obsessed and motivated. Your brain floods with dopamine every time she responds positively, creating an addiction-like state that ensures you'll pursue her relentlessly. But once you secure the relationship, the will no longer needs to motivate you with intense desire. The neurochemical cocktail that made her seem like a goddess gradually wears off, revealing her as an ordinary human being with flaws, moods, and mundane daily habits. This isn't her fault or yours. It's how the system was designed to work. Most men interpret this shift as evidence they chose the wrong woman, or that something is broken in the relationship. They either end things and chase the next high with someone new, or they stay and accept a life of quiet desperation. Schopenhauer suggests a third option. Understanding that this pendulum swing is inevitable allows you to stop taking it personally. The boredom doesn't mean she's not right for you. It means you're human. When the relationship drama becomes unbearable, when her mood swings drive you to desperation, when jealousy eats at your soul like acid, Schopenhauer offers you a lifeline that most men never discover. There exists a state of consciousness where the will's demands temporarily release their grip on you, where you can experience peace without needing her validation or love. This happens through what he called aesthetic contemplation moments, when you become completely absorbed in beauty, art, music, or nature. In these precious intervals, you stop being a man desperately seeking romantic fulfillment and become pure consciousness observing reality. Think about the last time you were completely lost in a song that moved you to your core, or stood before a sunset that stopped your thoughts entirely, or watched a film that transported you beyond your personal concerns. In those moments, you weren't thinking about whether she loved you enough, whether she might leave you for someone better, whether you were good enough to keep her. The will's relentless voice went silent, and you experienced what Schopenhauer considered the closest thing to salvation available to human beings. This isn't escapism. It's touching the deepest reality beneath the biological programming. Most men seek relief from romantic suffering through more relationships, more sex, more validation from women. But these solutions only feed the will and intensify the cycle of desire and disappointment. Aesthetic contemplation offers genuine liberation. By revealing that your essential self exists independently of romantic success or failure, the peace you find in beauty is more reliable than any woman's love. Because it comes from within your own consciousness, you've experienced romantic love, that intoxicating cocktail of desire, possession, and need that makes another person the center of your universe. But Schopenhauer distinguished between this biological obsession and a higher form of human connection, genuine compassion, while romantic love is essentially selfish, driven by what the other person can do for your genes and ego. Compassion recognizes the shared suffering of conscious beings without demanding anything in return. This isn't the kind of sympathy you perform to get into her pants. It's a fundamental shift in how you perceive other people's reality. True compassion emerges when you stop seeing others as potential sources of satisfaction for your desires and start recognizing them as fellow prisoners of the will. The woman who rejected you, the one who cheated on you, even the one who seemed to love you completely are all trapped in the same biological programming that controls you. They suffer from the same endless cycle of wanting and disappointment, the same fear of death, the same loneliness that comes from being locked inside individual consciousness. When you truly grasp this, anger and resentment become impossible, because you understand that everyone is doing their best within the constraints of human nature. This compassionate perspective doesn't make you weak or passive in relationships. Instead, it frees you from the desperate neediness that repels women and the bitter resentment that poisons your soul. You can engage with romantic relationships without being enslaved by them, because you recognize both yourself and your partner as temporary expressions of the same universal struggle. This understanding creates space for authentic connection beyond biological programming. Now that you understand the machinery behind romantic love, the question becomes, how do you live with this knowledge without becoming cynical or hopeless? Schopenhauer's insights don't condemn you to a life of isolation. They offer you freedom from the illusions that cause unnecessary suffering. When you accept that her attraction to you is fundamentally biological, you stop taking her eventual disinterest as a personal failure. When you understand that your own desires are driven by unconscious forces, you can make more rational decisions about relationships without being a slave to every emotional impulse. This knowledge becomes your armor in the modern dating marketplace. You can appreciate a woman's beauty without believing she's your soulmate, enjoy her company without needing her validation, invest in the relationship without losing yourself in it. You recognize the signs when her interest begins to wane, not as mysterious female behavior, but as the predictable operation of biological programming. This doesn't make you manipulative or calculating. It makes you realistic about what romantic relationships can and cannot provide. You stop expecting women to complete you or heal your existential loneliness. The ultimate practical wisdom is learning to find meaning and satisfaction outside the romantic realm, while still being open to connection when it serves your genuine interests. You pursue aesthetic experiences, develop your skills and knowledge, cultivate friendships based on mutual respect rather than biological attraction. You engage with women from a position of strength rather than desperate need. This isn't about becoming cold or heartless. It's about understanding the game well enough to play it without being destroyed by it. Armed with Schopenhauer's brutal honesty about love and human nature, you now face a choice. Will you continue chasing the illusion of romantic salvation, or will you build a life of meaning beyond the will's demands? If this perspective has shaken your assumptions about relationships and opened your eyes to deeper truths about human behavior, hit that subscribe button and join thousands of men who are learning to navigate reality with wisdom instead of wishful thinking.